Okay, I guess, yep, we're recording now. We are definitely recording. Hello, everybody. My name is Tom Timbrooks, and, Thomas W. Timbrooks, and I'm running for the United States House of Representatives. I want to go ahead and represent Oregon's 6th Congressional District, and my whole motto is I want to make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district, and that's what I got down there. I am that great looking guy you see there in the thing. So yep, make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district. So basically, welcome to another episode of my show where I try to get you to vote for me, but I also want to draw attention to today's shirt. Today's shirt is brought to you by the fact that I'm old and I don't care. Suspenders too. Suspenders are an additional level of I don't care. That means you can walk around all day with your pants unbuttoned, and you're walking around the house all day with your pants unbuttoned, and you're like, because I don't care. When you're old like me, you don't care. So anyways, I know, I think I'm a lot funnier than I actually am, but that's another part of being old. So today I want to talk about pandemonium and the psychology of rebellion in Paradise Lost, or why every civilization builds its own pandemonium, okay? And this right here is a picture of what some artist's rendition of pandemonium, what pandemonium might look like, okay? So basically a little bit of history, okay? John Milton wrote Paradise Lost, a book, Paradise Lost, in 1665. Yeah, this is my emotional support clipboard, in case you're wondering. I need it. It's my emotional support, So anyways, John Milton wrote this book, Paradise Lost, in 1665. The very beginning of the book, what happens is God and the angels up in heaven decide Satan and the demons, they got to get out. Okay, they're not doing everything. So they're kicked out of heaven and they fall. They go all the way down and they land in hell. Okay, and while they're in hell, all these demons are looking at each other thinking, we need a swinging bachelor's pad. We need a place where we can watch TV, play video games, drink beer, eat hot wings, and check out waitresses with short miniskirts. That's what we need down here in hell. We need our own little place, and what are we going to call it? We're going to call it, well, let me see. It's a home for all of the demons. What is Latin for all demons home? Let's look this up. And they Googled it really quick. That, hey, Google, what would be a good name for all demons home? And Google comes back with, well, the Latin phrase for all demons home is pandemonium, okay? And so if you have ever heard anybody refer to any place as pandemonium, the very first time the word pandemonium was used was in John Milton's Paradise Lost in 1665. That was the invention of the word, okay? So if you ever hear anybody talking about pandemonium, they are referring to all demons home in the book Paradise Lost, a place where the demons can hang out all day and do whatever they want. All right, so that's where I'm talking about when I talk about pandemonium. I am referring to the place, the palace that was built by the demons in hell so that they would have a swinging bachelor pad to hang out and eat hot wings and play video games all day long, and listen to Boz Scaggs and sit down on a beanbag chair and just look at all the colorful posters in the room while they're tripping on mushrooms or whatever. Okay, that is pandemonium, all demons home. Okay, so that's about as much of the book as you really need to know from me right now. I'm not an expert on the book. I tried to read it one time, but it was written in 1665, and there are a lot of references that you might understand if you were alive in 1665, but I'm old, but I wasn't alive in 1665, so there's a lot of stuff in the book I don't understand, so I really have to depend on scholars who have studied the literature to be able to explain it to me, okay? And so as far as I understand it, the book, in my opinion, and any kind of creative thing, art, literature, movie, cinema, a poem, anything that is creative in nature is essentially a Rorschach test. Whatever you see in that is kind of a reflection of you and not so much a reflection of the person who created it. So in my opinion, from what I get from looking at Milton's Paradise Lost, what I see is a book that is about the conflict between perception and reality. And that's really what politics is. Politics is, it's all about perception versus reality, and how politicians are very often more concerned with the perception than the reality. And that's really where I see hell in Milton's Paradise Lost as a place where perception is more important than reality. In fact, only perception is important in hell. And in heaven, only reality is important. And somewhere between heaven and hell is the wise mind. The wise mind maintains a level playing field where a little bit of hell is acceptable, a little bit of heaven is acceptable, but neither two should really, they're both drastic ends there. And no human being is going to be comfortable in heaven forever. No human being is going to be comfortable in hell forever. But you have to have the free will to experience either one. And so that's really the value of Paradise Lost is, I think, understanding that human nature is being emotional creatures that think logically, and the fact that we are emotional creatures that think logically means that we have to exercise our free will to experience whatever we want to experience, either paradise or pandemonium, one of the two. And this is something that Milton establishes in the book Paradise Lost, is that free will cannot be controlled by either God or Satan. A person has to be free to exercise their own free will. If they want paradise, go to paradise. If they want pandemonium, get pandemonium, okay? And something else in my presentation here, I'm going to talk about the opposite. The pandemonium is the place in hell where the demons call home. I'm gonna create my own word and call it panangelium, which is the home for all angels, which I imagine that if pandemonium is a really groovy place where you can sit on a beanbag chair, do mushrooms, listen to Boz Scaggs, and play video games all day, panangelium is probably a place that has really nice furniture. And all the furniture is covered with plastic because that's just, mom wants to keep the furniture nice, so yeah, I can understand wanting to leave and go down to pandemonium and hang out. Yeah, but anyways, let me get back to my presentation here, okay? So this is an artist's rendition of pandemonium, what pandemonium must look like, because it is all demons' home, okay? So the big idea, Paradise Lost, isn't just theology, it's psychology. Heaven and hell represent the two halves of human nature, logic and emotion. Like I said, we are emotional creatures that think logically. The battle is not above us, it is within us. Okay, so within every human being is a conflict between heaven and hell, between perception and reality, and that's just human nature. It's not a bug, it's a characteristic. It's like software engineers will tell you it's not a bug, it's not a flaw, it's a characteristic of the software. It's a feature. It's not a bug, it's a feature, blah blah blah. So and I'm an engineer too, I should know this stuff. Okay, so the conflict between perception and reality. Heaven is reality. It's truth, discipline, and humility. And I mean, being a human being, you understand you can only take so much truth, discipline, and humility. Okay, hell is all about perceptions, feeling, indulgence, and illusion. So it's hot wings, video games, and watching TV on the beanbag chair. So I mean, it's hell and heaven. You can understand there is going to be a conflict. So humanity constantly drifts towards perception because it feels alive, and it does. It does. Pandemonium, going crazy, doing all this stuff makes you feel alive. But eventually, you have to go back to heaven, and you have to be able to exercise your free will to travel between heaven and hell. So it's all about how the free will of human beings it causes us to go between the two. And so that's what I get out of the book, basically. Okay, so the fall of the logical mind. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. And this is something that John Milton puts in his book, throughout his book. It's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. And Satan's declaration of emotional sovereignty. Pride becomes the mind's first rebellion against reality. And this line defines the psychology of modern defiance. And it's really just basically, as you grow up, while you're growing up, you really, you don't like the whole, discipline, because, you're young, you're attractive, you fit into those skinny jeans, your hair looks good, and, the people that you associate with, they look good, they're skinny and attractive, and you want to get rid of old people like me. It's like, hey, old man, get out of the room. We're trying to have some fun here. And and old people like me are always like, oh, but your homework and stuff, and that kind of thing. So really, you have to be allowed. Old people like me have to figure it out and say, like, okay, look, their free will, their ability to exercise their free will, young people, that's more important than discipline at this age. We have to take care of them, nurture them, and respect their desire to exercise free will. We have to respect the idea that they will eventually return to the logic and discipline and school and all the good stuff, but we have to allow them to make their own mistakes. We have to allow them to do whatever bad stuff they're going to do that's crazy and stuff, because free will is more important than servitude or pandemonium. So that's the idea behind Milton's Paradise Lost. So the first act of the fallen angels is to build a city. It's designed by Mulciber, modeled after heaven's glory. It's a counterfeit creation, a mirror world where emotion pretends to be reason, and that's essentially pandemonium for you. Okay, the illusion of freedom. In pandemonium, the devils believe they are free, but are slaves to passion, and that's really the way it is. If you give up all of the good stuff in society so that you can hang out in crazy little punk rock bars, you are really a slave to your passion. It's the illusion of freedom, but really you're a slave to your passion. Emotional indulgence disguised as independence, and that's really important to understand. There is that emotional indulgence is disguised as independence. You aren't really independent. You're still dependent on the people who are around you and encouraging you. It's kind of disguised as independence. And the beginning of all false utopias. And that's something you learn about as you grow older. As you grow older, it's like as a kid, you just want to play hopscotch, eat ice cream, and listen to music all the time. But as you get older, you realize these people that are your friends, you're outgrowing them. You want things for yourself and they don't want you to have those things. So, this is really what the wise mind and free will establish for you as you're growing older, is that you will grow further away from pandemonium. You always want pandemonium there as an option. Because you're always, at some point in your life, you're going to want to drink a couple of beers, watch TV, and eat some hot wings. You want it as an option. You don't want to destroy pandemonium. You don't want to get rid of it completely, but you don't want to dedicate your life to it. And that's just a function of growing older, using the wise mind and exercising free will. So that's more of Milton's Paradise Lost. So the architecture of the mind, heaven, hell, and the wise mind. Heaven is the logical mind, hell is the emotional mind, and the wise mind, the harmony between the two. So the emotional mind, hell, it's driven by impulse, reward, pleasure, and revenge. It seeks comfort over truth, and the emotional mind builds pandemonium to escape reality. And the logical mind is heaven, it seeks truth, structure, purity, order, offers clarity, but demands sacrifice. Without compassion, it becomes cold and authoritarian, which anybody who has ever spent time in your friend's house where all the furniture is covered with plastic and you can't listen to music and it smells like, the whole house smells like ammonia, you can understand why you would want to go over to your friend's house where you can sit on a couch and, eat French fries and, just kind of relax and everything. So that's getting away from, the wise mind is sort of the bridge between the two, between the emotional and the logical mind. All right, so it's the realization that you can't have all of one and none of either. It's like I said, free will. And like I said, so the logical mind, heaven, I already went over this. Sorry if I'm going over these slides too quickly, but basically I just, what I want to do is establish an understanding of this book, the logical mind, the emotional mind, and the wise mind. The three minds that you have. The wise mind is right in between the logical mind and the emotional mind. So that's what I want to establish. And the slides are really not as important as the whole mood, the whole idea here. And I got a bunch of slides to go through, so I want to kind of go through them quickly. Anyways, the wise mind is the bridge, the balanced state, feeling with understanding, rarely achieved but essential for peace and governance. The true salvation Milton hints at, and pandemonium in every age. So basically what I just said with that slide, the wise mind, rarely achieved. Okay, the wise mind is the part of your mind that is in between the emotional and the logical. It's right here. Okay, the wise mind is going to tell you, eat responsibly, exercise regularly, use your safety equipment, stay away from cigarettes and alcohol, no cussing, no loud music, basically the most boring part of you. But if you want to be safe, if you want to live a long time, if you want to be successful, you will listen to the wise mind. You'll be very, very lonely because seriously, when was the last time you wanted to hang out with somebody who, did all that stuff? It's no fun. You want to have fun. You want to enjoy life. So exercise your free will, experience pandemonium, experience paradise, or pan-angelium. Either way, just go both ways, experience everything. But depend on your wise mind to make the proper decisions for you. And that's basically what I'm talking about there. Each of us has a wise mind. Between our emotional and our logical sides, we have this meeting in the middle of a wise mind. Listen to the wise mind, but don't obsess over the wise mind. The wise mind is there to keep you safe and keep you directed. Your emotional and logical minds are there to rescue you from situations where you are too much of either and not enough of one. So that's basically the whole idea I'm trying to get across there. Okay, so pandemonium in every age. So Rome's pandemonium, the Colosseum, a society entertained by suffering, a place where perception, spectacle triumphed over reality or morality. The emotional mind feeding an illusion. And what these slides are going to do, they're going to establish basically that every civilization throughout time has defined itself by its own personal pandemonium, its place of pandemonium. When you think about the Roman Empire, you don't think about all the amazing modern conveniences that they created. I mean, there are roads that the ancient Romans built these roads, and they still exist. They're still usable. The aqueducts, the plumbing, the modern sewage, getting rid of all the sewage, and that's what the Romans did. You don't think about that when you think about Rome. You think about the Colosseum and gladiators. You think about the particular pandemonium that the Romans created. They created their pandemonium. It was the Colosseum. So that's what you think about when you think about these civilizations. Every civilization has created its own pandemonium, and every civilization is proud of their pandemonium, and they rely on their own personal pandemonium, but they also rely on their pan-angelium, the all angels home. It's just that we don't think about that when we think about civilization. We think more about the pandemonium. Okay, so that's what I'm getting at there. France, their pandemonium, the revolution, the cry for freedom turning to chaos, logic abandoned to emotion, liberty becoming bloodless, pandemonium in the streets of Paris, and that was. During the French Revolution, that's where that one chick said, let them eat cake and everything. Oh, God, I can't think of her name right now. But anyways, Marie Antoinette. Okay, so Marie Antoinette, they had, in the center of Paris, they had the guillotine, and all these rich, empowered people were, their heads were just flying off all over the place, right? And Marie Antoinette, check this out. This chick was in line to get her head cut off, and as they directed her over to the guillotine, she stumbled over the guy's feet who's going to pull the lever that's going to cut her head, and she looks at the guy and says, "Beg your pardon." She says it in French. But, I mean, what kind of person does that? I don't know. But this is the French version of pandemonium. They created their own little pandemonium, their own little all demons home, and they're very proud of it. So the French Revolution, that was their little pandemonium too. Now, America's pandemonium, the modern New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, temples of perception, wealth, fame, and self-expression replace truth and virtue. And every skyscraper is a Tower of Babel. The digital pandemonium, the internet as a modern hell where perception becomes currency. Social media, better to reign in my own feed than serve in truth. And emotional indulgence on a global scale. So every place has got its pandemonium. The necessity of pandemonium, the humans need stimulation. It's how we feel alive. Without pandemonium, life feels sterile and meaningless, but too much and civilization decays. So law enforcement and the modern dilemma. The conflict in America's cities as emotional centers, full of passion and perception. Law enforcement as the embodiment of logic and order, and the inevitable clash between the two. So basically, law enforcement comes into pandemonium and says, hey, put down those hot wings. No more margaritas for you, and put some pants on that guy. That kind of stuff. The demons are having a swinging, groovy time, and law enforcement comes in and saying, hey, stop it. The Yellow Submarine, they called them the Blue Meanies and everything. But anyways, that's law enforcement there, and I'm going to go somewhere with this. Why people resist order. To those in pandemonium, law enforcement seems like the enemy. They're defending meaning, not just defying law. They see order as a threat to their emotional existence and the perception of authority. The emotional mind perceives authority as oppression, but reality sees authority as protection. The gap between these perceptions fuels civil unrest, okay? And so let's say you're a bar owner. You own a Hooters restaurant, okay? And a Hooters restaurant, great. TV, beer, hot wings, beautiful waitresses. But let's say the people go a little bit too crazy and they start to trash the Hooters because, hey, things aren't going very well for this guy. He just wants to get this waitress's phone number, right? the police have to come in and rescue pandemonium from the demons. So really, what the police are doing, the police understand there is a need for pandemonium in modern society. We all love pandemonium, but pandemonium sometimes needs to be preserved from the demons, because if it were just left to the demons, pandemonium would be destroyed and none of us would have a pandemonium to go to experience. Okay, so really what the police are doing, what law enforcement is doing, is helping to regulate pandemonium, helping to establish some kind of control, some kind of way to keep pandemonium going as long as possible so that we can all enjoy it. Okay, that's really what they're doing, but it's interpreted as oppression because the people who are having a good time, they don't want to stop having a good time. So the police are basically that friend that taps you on the shoulder and says, I think you've had enough. Give me your keys. I'm going to give you a ride home. Okay, basically that. So the perception of authority. The emotional mind perceives authority as oppression, but reality sees authority as protection. The gap between these two perceptions fuels civil unrest, kind of like what's happening in Portland and all across America with the whole ICE agents thing. Law enforcement as the logical mind. Officers represent the heaven of reason, restraint, and order. Their challenge is entering pandemonium without destroying it. The mission is to balance justice with empathy. These cops understand that you want pandemonium, but they also understand that pandemonium has to be preserved for everybody. Respecting each individual pandemonium. Every person's chaos has purpose. Law enforcement must see beyond behavior to the emotional need beneath it. To restore order, one must first understand disorder. And you see, that's the mistake that a lot of people who are experiencing pandemonium they make this mistake. They think, well, the law doesn't understand. The law does understand. Okay, I understand. I used to go to these bars and I've been in the mosh pit. I've gone to some crazy concerts and everything, but I always respect the authority because I enjoy going to these crazy concerts. When I was younger, much younger. It's been so long. It's been a long time for me, man. I'm old. But back when I was younger, I had dark hair and abs and everything, man. I used to dig these places. They were great. Always respected the owners, the establishment, the authority, the police, because we know that next weekend we're going to want to experience pandemonium again. We can't constantly trash out pandemonium or else it's going to be gone and we can never have it again. We really all need to enjoy it. So that's what we're talking about there. Respecting each individual pandemonium. Every person's chaos has purpose. Law enforcement must see beyond behavior to emotional need beneath it. To restore order, one must first understand disorder, which they do. So civilization and the cycle of rebellion, the rise and fall of civilizations. Every civilization begins in logic and ends in emotion. From discipline to decadence, the cycle of pandemonium. The wise mind can break the cycle. And here's what I'm talking about there. Society a long time ago, million years ago or whatever, human beings first came upon the earth, and tens of thousands of years ago, the free market was established because for once in human civilization, we had more than we needed. And this is crazy. This has never happened before. We got more than we needed. What are we going to do with the extra? Well, they over there, they got something I want, and they will trade this for that. So Let's go over there and trade this for that. And people started trading goods and services, and they called this place the marketplace. This is the marketplace. This is the free market where goods and services are traded. They created buildings and tents and bazaars and all these great conveniences to keep records of who's trading what, the quality, the merchandise, and all that. And so somebody kind of took control and said, hey, you know, these merchants are great. It's great to have merchants here selling and buying and bargaining and all this stuff. So let's create a police force to keep the merchants safe so that they can go to their homes and businesses and everything, and they can profit in creating this marketplace. And wonderful. And what happens is they find out that these buildings that they've created, well, they're only good for like 8 hours a day, because the merchants, the people who create the marketplace, they have to go home, cook dinner, eat, take care of the kids, and like that. So some enterprising person comes along and says, if we give these people a distraction, they might stay. So music, theater, magic, acrobats, philosophy, stand-up comedy. Those are the things that get you out of the house and into the city. Okay, so that is the difference between society and civilization. See, civilization is the part of society that gets people out longer than it takes to exchange goods and services. You've gone through your workday, you've exchanged goods and services. Now it's time to enjoy the weekend, enjoy the evening. And how are you going to do that? Civilization. The lights, the glamour, the circuses, the performers, the music, the arts, all that stuff. That is civilization. Civilization is built on society. Okay, now, at some point, civilization will become more powerful than society. But see, society is what civilization is built on. So when civilization, when all these actors, performers, and all that, when they stop realizing the value of society, that's when civilization starts to crumble. Because civilization is destroying the foundation upon which civilization is built, and that is society. So you see that, and that's what I'm talking about with that slide. Is every civilization begins in logic and ends in emotion. From discipline to decadence, the cycle of pandemonium. The wise mind can break the cycle. And what the wise mind has to do is come along and show wisdom. So the emotional reward of rebellion. Rebellion feels righteous even when it's destructive. And Satan's psychology lives in every generation. And that is, like I just said, every generation when they're young, they want the pandemonium. It makes them feel alive. Emotion justifies itself through passion. And that's just being young and stupid. You know, you're full of these hormones and emotions. You want to go have fun. So that's just all that is. So the mirror of pandemonium. Pandemonium reflects each viewer's inner chaos. What we build in society mirrors what we refuse to balance, in our lives. Our cities are projections of our minds. So New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, Miami, New Orleans, all these places, pandemonium. They're reflections of our pandemonium. Okay, so the addiction to perception. Humans crave illusion because it comforts the ego. Pandemonium is psychological entertainment. Reality is harder, but it's where truth lives. Okay, so the moral of Milton's allegory, the fall was not about sin, it was about self-deception. When perception replaces reality, hell is built within. The only redemption is balance. That's the wise mind. So what you need is understand every person has the need for pandemonium in them. And this should be reflected in every politician's actions. Every politician should go to Congress, to wherever that politician needs to go to, with the understanding all people need their pandemonium, all people need their panangelium, and eventually every human being will exercise their free will, which will bring them to the wise mind. Free will always bring people to the wise mind. People people have to be allowed to exercise their free will. And that's what Paradise Lost is all about. With the conflict between perception and reality, free will allow people to come to a compromise between the two. So that's what Milton's Paradise Lost is all about. Understanding the value of free will in choosing between heaven and hell, between panangelium and pandemonium. Okay, so more about it. The path to the wise mind, recognizing our inner pandemonium. Each of us has a personal hell we return to. Recognizing it is the first step towards self-governance. Sounds kind of like an intervention to me, right? Awareness is the architecture of the wise mind. And that's what I'm talking about there. With the, knowing that you love pandemonium a little bit too much and your friends are telling you, hey, give me your keys, I'm driving you home. So the wise mind is going to tell you, listen to your friends. So reconciling heaven and hell. Emotion needs truth, logic needs compassion. The wise mind is not neutrality, it's integration. The wise mind, your wise mind, mine, everybody's wise mind is going to be able to integrate both sides, the logical mind and the emotional mind. We are emotional creatures that think logically. Every person is like that. There are people out there who are logical people who think logically. They act and think logically. We call those people autistic. We also call them sociopaths, psychopaths, mass murderers. It's not normal to be a logical person who thinks logically. You have to be emotional and think logically. Okay, that's the normal state. And the wise mind is what we use to understand the normal state of humans is emotional. We think logically. Okay, so building societal balance, justice with mercy, freedom with discipline, empathy with enforcement. A balanced society mirrors a balanced mind. And this is like Tom Homan. Tom Homan is a terrific law enforcement person. He's been doing it for like 30, 40, 60, a million years, something like that. I'm pretty sure, he's got to be older than me. I'm pretty sure that when they came out with Dirt, he was on the approval committee. But anyways, Tom Homan has made this statement: protesters, I want you to come out. I want the protesters to come out and protest. I don't want the protesters to think that we are going to arrest them for protesting. We aren't. Feel free to protest. It's your right as an American citizen to protest. Just don't get in the way. Don't attack any of the officials. Don't attack law enforcement. They are there to do a job. Protest all you want, have a good time, but don't attack the law enforcement people. That's all. That's it. I mean, it's pretty easy. Just don't attack a cop. I mean, you don't need a lot of common sense for that, right? So, anyways, and that's what I'm talking about. The balanced society mirrors a balanced mind. Okay, and that's Tom Homan. Good guy. I've never met him, but I'm pretty sure he's a decent guy. Law enforcement of the wise mind. Officers as mediators between perception and reality. The new role, not conquerors of pandemonium, but guides through it. And like I said, they're trying to preserve pandemonium so that everybody can enjoy it. The measure of order is not control, but understanding. So every citizen builds their own pandemonium. Heaven and hell are states of mind and of governance. When we unite truth with compassion, logic with emotion, we no longer need pandemonium because paradise is restored within. And this is the acceptance of the wise mind with the the wise mind is balancing out the emotional and logical mind. So here's part 2 of what I wanted to get at: pandemonium and panangelium, the battle between reality and perception. And this is what the 2025 government shutdown reveals about politics. And this is the whole thing. It's just earlier this week, the whole government shutdown stopped. And people are saying, ooh, finally, the government shutdown stopped. This was a strategic shutdown. It really didn't have much more purpose except for, I'm going to get on with that, okay? So The purpose of government is to accomplish collectively that which the individual can't. The purpose of the politician is to establish the line between personal responsibility and government dependency. This is the line that defines the health of every civilization. This is the point where individual freedom meets collective order. When that line blurs, nations lose their balance. That's what this presentation explores, how civilizations throughout history have struggled to maintain that balance, and how John Milton's Paradise Lost can help us understand our own time. And this is what I'm talking about, is that during the government shutdown, there were so many people who were completely lost. You know, the SNAP benefits, welfare recipients and like that, and they are all saying, oh, well, we're just going to rob the Walmart. And you see, this should make clear to every person who lost everything during the shutdown that it's entirely possible maybe you should rethink some of your choices in life, because if a government shutdown destroys your life, you might have to do some deep thinking there, okay? And so, yep, there we go. Milton's psychological allegory. Paradise Lost isn't just a poem about angels and demons. It's an allegory about the human mind, about how perception and reality compete for control of our choices. Heaven represents reality, structure, discipline, and truth. Hell represents perception, indulgence, and the emotional escape. The human being stands between them, forever torn between what feels good and what is good. Just as government struggles to define where responsibility ends and dependency begins, Milton's angels and demons represent the same inner struggle. The balance between emotion and reason, freedom and order. Okay, so that's what Milton's book is all about, is establishing that. So better to reign in hell. When Satan declares it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, he defines the psychology of rebellion. It's not simply defiance against God, it's the birth of the idea that comfort is preferable to discipline and control of illusion is better than service to truth. In every era, this line becomes the anthem of those who trade responsibility for perception. It is also the anthem of every civilization that forgets where to draw the line between personal responsibility and dependency on leadership. So defining the two realms. Pandemonium, all demons home, as a symbol of pleasure without accountability, built to reward irresponsibility and emotional gratification. The city of illusion, where perception replaces truth. Panangelium, that's my invention, it's not actually in the book, all angels home, is the counterpart to pandemonium, where it rewards discipline, self-governance, and responsibility. Its citizens seek freedom through mastery of self. And that's kind of a Stoic thing, you know, Marcus Aurelius and all that stuff. So we've got to get a water break. Oh man, I'm talking too much. Water is good when you talk too much. Okay, so anyways, free will, the great exchange. Angels and demons can travel freely between realms. Each chooses the world that offers the greatest value. God offers truth, Satan offers comfort. And sometimes that's just like all human beings. You know, what do you need most? Do you need truth or do you need comfort? Do you need people to create the perception? Do you need people to reinforce the truth? That's just the exchange there. That's, you know, where the wise mind takes over. Oh man, blast out the words quickly, and I gotta get some water. The eternal competition. Satan's task is to keep pandemonium attractive. God's task, make panangelium meaningful. Humanity's task is to choose between perception and reality. Once again, free will. Free will cannot be interfered with. God and Satan, all throughout the book, you know, they understand free will, human free will cannot be interfered with. So the modern reflection. Civilizations build their own pandemonium. Rome had its Colosseum, France its Revolution, America has its cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, New Orleans, Miami. I have been to New Orleans and it is pandemonium. I love it. New York, I've been to all these cities. They're all great. They're all fun places to be. But too much pandemonium can cause problems. And that's what each of these cities is suffering with, is people who prefer the pandemonium over Pan-Angelium. So New York City, the pandemonium central. So whenever people think about Rome, they think about the Roman Empire, they think about the Colosseum. And whenever people think about America, they think about New York City. New York City is America's collective pandemonium. There are lesser pandemoniums, Chicago, Los Angeles, New Orleans, Miami, all those places, but New York City will always be America's central pandemonium. It's what Americans think about when we think about our own personal pandemonium. This is New York City. That's where it's at. Okay, and I'm leading somewhere with that. The culture and emotional heart of America. Media, art, and finance shape national perception. Whoever controls New York controls America's collective imagination. The value of pandemonium. Societies need stimulation. It's what makes them feel alive. Pandemonium provides it. The danger. When indulgence replaces responsibility, decline begins. The allure of comfort, people naturally gravitate towards the place that offers emotional reward. Comfort feels like freedom, but it comes at the price of self-control. And here we go. Politics and the psychology of dependence. And here's where I'm getting closer and closer to, of course, the election in New York City, where we now have a socialist mayor of New York City who has promised all these free things to everybody, and he's already retracting all that stuff. He's saying, well, yeah, it's all free, but I need money in order to make it free. So, hey, send me your money and I can give people free stuff. And people are thinking, wait a minute. That is socialism. Socialism is based on the idea that you have somebody else's money to spend. Okay, and since New York now has a socialist mayor, they are going to need other people's money to spend. They're going to need a lot of other people's money to spend, and they're going to get it from the taxpayers of New York. And the governor of New York has already said, I know he promised you people all this stuff, but that kind of thing. So really, the governor of New York is kind of the wise mind here, saying, I understand there has to be some balance. You guys love pandemonium, but we have to preserve pandemonium so that we can all enjoy it, okay? And that's really what the governor of New York is doing. And I really respect the governor of New York for making that decision, because it could be political suicide, but I really hope that they maintain themselves. Anyway, politics and the psychology of dependence. Power through perception. Political leaders understand the emotional value of pandemonium. They know perception can override logic, and emotional messaging wins elections. Rational arguments maintain nations. And what I mean there is, emotional messaging wins elections, okay? And that is perception. Whenever Zoran Mandavi comes on and he says, it's free, this is going to be free, this is going to be free, it's all going to be free, you're going to get it free, more of this, more of that, more of the other, okay? New Yorkers love that. They love the idea that the rich man up in the fancy house is getting the shaft, because they see those rich people up there in their mansions and their floor-to-ceiling glass apartments that cost $1 million each, and they're like, man, I got to wash sweat socks for a living and stuff, and it's like anything that gets revenge on those people, pulls them down to reality, the regular people are going to like. And that's not reality. But it is an emotional appeal. So the emotional appeal is going to get Zoran Mandavi elected. But the rational appeal is what is going to get people the infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, fuel, all the things that they need to survive. So his emotional appeal, when people vote for you because you make them feel emotional, they're going to be very disappointed with the reality. And that's the problem with elections sometimes, is that people tend to vote more with emotion than reality, more with perception than reality. And once again, paradise lost, right? So anyway, so the manipulation of responsibility. Leaders gain control by redefining responsibility. We'll take care of it for you. A seductive message, give up duty, gain ease. The illusion of protection. Promises like I'll fight for your rights or I'll defend your freedoms sound empowering, but they subtly teach dependence. The subtext, you're too weak to defend yourself. The comfort of pandemonium politics is citizens are invited to relax while politicians handle everything. The responsibility shifts upwards and control consolidates. The illusion of freedom deepens. So basically, you're getting the illusion of freedom, but what you're really getting is more government dependence. So the government shutdown as a case study. The timing of the shutdown, weeks-long government shutdown overlapping the general election. Both parties blamed each other. After the election, the shutdown ended almost overnight. Perception over reality. Reality. Stalled agencies, unpaid workers, halted services. The perception, political campaigns fighting for the people. Okay, so the emotion overshadowed consequence, pure pandemonium. So basically what the politicians were doing was saying, well, we're fighting for your rights. We're fighting for your this, that, and the other. They weren't fighting for anything. They were strategically stalling the government. They were creating a problem that only the government can fix. So they were increasing your dependence on the government. But what the government realizes is you are capable of supporting yourself. You're capable of getting a different job. You're capable of going someplace else. The government wanted to stall, the Democrats wanted to stall government for a long enough period of time to show people that they are dependent on the government, but not for a long enough period of time that the people go out and find other jobs. Okay, so it was sort of a strategic measure to help during an election cycle. And it really worked because a lot of Democrats were elected that may not have been elected. So, it kind of worked for them. So the strategic benefit, a prolonged crisis amplifies dependence on leadership. The citizens conditioned to believe only government can fix government. Emotional loyalty replaces objective evaluation. And that's where we have the emotional appeal there. The political objective was strengthen the perception that only political elites can protect individuals. Shift responsibility from citizen to state. Reinforce the preference for pandemonium. Let the leader rule, we'll relax. And this is where I'm talking about the connection to New York City. Supporting a socialist mayor consolidates influence over America's emotional capital. When New York City falters economically, and it will, because socialism always fails, dependency deepens. Control of pandemonium ensures control of perception. With the moral dimension here. Pandemonium rewards irresponsibility, the unspoken deal. You give up control, you gain comfort. Pleasure replaces purpose. The mind is pacified but not liberated. You're still dependent on the government. Panangelium rewards responsibility. It's the harder path, but the freer one. Self-discipline, work ethic, accountability. The soul finds peace through effort, not indulgence. The political relevance here, pandemonium politics promise happiness without responsibility. Panangelium politics demand effort but deliver real freedom. Which model sustains a republic? Well, Panangelium sustains a republic. The role of free will in governance. The citizen must choose comfort or character. Every vote reflects that inner decision, and societies rise or fall by what they collectively value. The path back to the wise mind, recognizing the illusion. Pandemonium's charm fades when its promises go unfulfilled, just like Zoran Mundabi's promises are going to go unfulfilled. Awareness breaks the spell. People are going to become aware and the spell is going to be broken. Responsibility regains its worth. So essentially what the government is doing, they're trying to ensure Zoran Mundabi gets elected as mayor because they know socialism is going to fail. And when socialism does fail, which it will fail, the people of New York City will be coming to the government for some kind of help. So by getting the socialist into New York City, they're taking control of America's central pandemonium, a place that we absolutely know and love. And they're going to position themselves as the only way to save New York City. That's the bigger plan. And so, anyways, emotional passion fuels creativity, integrating emotion and reason. Logical discipline sustains civilization. The wise mind unites both. And this is where I keep saying, going back to the wise mind will save you, me, and civilization. Leadership from the wise mind. True leaders encourage personal empowerment, not dependency. They guide citizens towards panangelium, not into pandemonium. The test of leadership, does it strengthen or weaken responsibility? The balance of society. Justice with mercy, freedom with accountability, compassion with structure. These balances maintain civilization's sanity. They're necessary. It's very important to have that balance. So, lessons for the future. The shutdown taught America about perception and power. Crises reveal which realm our leaders serve. Our task is to choose wisely between comfort and character. Closing reflection. My closing reflection here. Every civilization builds its own pandemonium. The question for our time, will we live by the illusion of protection or the truth of responsibility? Heaven and hell are not destinations. They are decisions made daily by nations and by individuals. So, and here's where I wanted to go. Ultimately, I began this whole thing by saying that Satan's statement was, it's better to serve in hell, or to rule in hell, than it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. That's what it says in the book and everything. So I've heard people say, bunch of times, the greatest lie ever told this, the greatest lie ever told that. And so it really depends on where you're at. Politics, history, religion, philosophy, medicine, astronomy, astrology, whatever, about what the greatest lie could possibly be. Okay, so in the world of politics, the greatest lie ever told is it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. That it's better to avoid responsibility than to accept it. The misplaced belief in this lie gives power to those who are in control. You're giving power over to your political leaders when you start to believe that it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. But you see, power invites corruption, and the more corrupt they become, the more they need the lie to be believed. So this is where marketing comes in. And I've mentioned this before, I've done a little bit of time in marketing. The whole function of marketing is getting you to believe in what somebody wants you to believe in. It's not necessarily something that's not necessarily good for you. It's not necessarily good for society, but it's good for them. Like I said before, Doritos. Doritos aren't good for you. They're not going to kill you. I love Doritos. I love everything Dorito related. I love all the stuff about Doritos, but you can't survive off of them. And the people who make Doritos are going to tell you right there, you can't live off Doritos. Go out, have yourself some meat and potatoes, vegetables, get yourself something healthy. Live a healthy lifestyle. Doritos are a snack food. They are not a sustaining food, you could probably get some kind of nutritional value out of them. I'm sure there's something in there that's nutritional. They're made out of corn, so corn has nutrition in it. So I would say there is some nutritional value in there. Same thing with Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. I hate the fact that they let go of the enchilada. The enchilada used to be my favorite thing. I'd get a couple of enchiladas, a couple of burrito supremes, and I'd go home, eat it, watch some TV, have a beer, and just fall asleep on the couch. It was the greatest thing, man. Pandemonium, I would love Pandemonium. Pandemonium is a great place. It's like, hey, you want some Cheese Whiz on that? Cheese Whiz on what? On your finger. Yes, I do want Cheese Whiz on my finger. There you go. I don't know if it's actually cheese. I don't know if there's any nutritional value in Cheese Whiz. But Cheese Whiz on your finger? I mean, who's going to say no to that? I want that. That's great and everything. But, marketing is all about convincing you to accept not necessarily a lie, but a perception. Okay, you have perception, you have reality. Satan is never lying to anybody, and God is never lying to anybody in the whole thing. What they are doing is they are marketing. And Satan is marketing pandemonium. Satan is marketing hell. Satan is saying, his whole marketing campaign is, it is much better to reign in hell than it is to serve in heaven. And how many times have you heard a marketing ploy like that? Do you want to be with this? Do you want to be with that? Automobile manufacturers, and manufacturers of anything, when they market their product to you, they know that there's a certain emotional anchor that you have with their product. You want a new car. You don't just want a car. You want a red car. I mean, whenever Chrysler came out with that cherry red color that they painted their cars with, that was a fantastic marketing gimmick. I'm just going to say gimmick. Okay, it was a fantastic marketing gimmick because that car, it doesn't matter how the car performs. It's a beautiful car. People love it. And when they came out, when Chrysler came out with that great big pickup truck, nobody had ever come out with a cowboy Cadillac like that before. I mean, I have owned nothing but pickup trucks my whole life. That pickup truck was nothing like any pickup truck I'd ever seen. And every other manufacturer pickup trucks, they raced to compete. Okay, having a pickup truck meant having the most practical thing in the world until they came out with this. And then that pickup truck really, I mean, it sold like crazy. It's all about marketing. And this is what politicians do. Politicians market. If politicians don't have any substance, and it's not just politicians, everybody. If everybody out there who is trying to get you to buy into an idea, if they don't have any substance, then they have to up the marketing campaign. They have to tell you things that aren't necessarily untrue, but they have to create the perception that what they want for you is better than what you want for yourself. And this is where John Milton's book, Paradise Lost, when the idea behind it, this is why we need to be familiar with the concept. I'm not telling you to go out and read the book. It's practically unreadable. I mean, it was written in 1655. If you were alive in 1655, you could probably read the book and understand it. But seriously, there's literature that was written, 50, 60, 100 years ago. Alice's Adventures Through the Looking Glass, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. If you analyze those books, there's this part where the people in the garden are painting the white roses red. That has to do with something called the Battle of the Roses back along, like 100 years ago, where if you were wearing a red rose and everybody else was wearing a white one, you could be killed right there. So make sure and have the right color rose on. So I mean, we really read that and we're like, people painting white roses red. That's silly. It's not silly. That was the difference between life and death back then. Okay, and see, that's the thing. Whenever you read something that's 300 years old, like Paradise Lost, it's very difficult to read. So you really have to depend on scholars, like I do. I depend on scholars who kind of filter through all of the stuff that would happen and give you the real meaning. And once you get the real meaning, that's where you can exercise your free will and decide for yourself exactly what it means for you. Like I said, any kind of creative effort, art, literature, music, cinema, they are all Rorschach tests, and your interpretation of them tells you about yourself, your inner psychology, your inner mind, what you are, who you are. So that's why everybody needs to be familiar with the psychology of Paradise Lost. So just that's what it's all about, is control, perception over reality, the conflict of perception over reality, and that's something we need to be aware of, is that politicians, if politicians understand they don't have substance, then they have to go on perception. And they will engage your emotional side in order to get you to devote your time to their agenda. And this is something I've said before. Every politician needs to understand a couple of things before they take the oath of office. One is that the road to ruin is paved with good intentions. So many great ideas with great intentions caused just absolute ruin. It's just, the list is very, very long. And the second thing is, you don't serve an agenda. You serve your people. The people, I want to be a representative in Washington, D.C. for Oregon's 6th Congressional District. My objective has to be to serve the people, Democrats and Republicans. What do the Democrats and Republicans need? Well, we all need infrastructure. Well, we all need jobs. We all need houses. We all need food. We all need fuel. So my objective will be to create the best possible congressional district by finding ways to create that infrastructure, create the housing, and so forth. So those are the things that I'm going to do. I'm not going to do them with the perception of performance. I'm going to do it with real performance. And if I can't provide all those things, then impeach me, get me out of there. Okay, but every politician needs to understand those things, and every person who is dealing with politicians, who goes out to vote, has to understand that politics is all about perception over reality. In the political environment, perception is reality. People have to understand that, and they have to understand, in Milton's book, Paradise Lost, this is a story about the conflict between perception and reality, and how if you want to reign in hell rather than serve in heaven, that's your free will. But free will is the single most valuable thing that humans can have in the election. Exercise your free will, vote the way you want, vote the way you feel you need to. So let me get back to my thing here. Too much. Okay. Free will gives every person a choice. Believe the lie and you surrender power of individuality. If you refuse the lie, you retain the power of individuality. The choice is yours. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. That's the raccoon of ending or whatever, I don't know. Some of the other ideas I have, I want to remove $5 trillion from the national debt. I want to propose a 28th Amendment for transparency and financial incentives. Secure America's digital infrastructure by requiring PLCs be built domestically. Tuberculosis polio screening for all migrants as well as food workers. 5-pillar blueprint to empower local governments, protecting our law enforcement through the Reasonable Operation Space Act. Requiring early measles vaccination, American Talent First Act to ensure American workers are prioritized for American jobs, immunotherapy for cancer research. That's something we do here in Oregon. I want to get funding for that, and in-person voting. Very, very important stuff there. And I support Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he's done a great job, and I think that he deserves some kind of recognition for that. And you have the Make America Great Again thing. Well, I am the Make Oregon 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district Republican. That is my stance. That's what I want to accomplish. So, listen, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And I know that my voice puts people to sleep. I hope that... I hope that I didn't put you to sleep. I hope you got something out of this. I really do. I appreciate you listening to me, and thank you very much. You take care of yourselves, and God bless.